and it essentially brought peace and it brought camaraderie and brought some memories. Because I always get asked the question, Pat, like, what was do you remember your first cigar? And I always say, I don't, but I'll always remember the people I smoked it with. And that's why we wanted to build this business was because it was essentially putting all those aspects together and saying, hey, we want to be there for those great events, those memorable, monumental events in your life, and for respect almost.
Ready for a story that blends service, leadership, and entrepreneurship into one engaging narrative? Joey MacDizon is a Marine Corps veteran with deployments to Iraq, Mongolia, and Norway. In the service, Joey created memories of true companionship and friendship with his fellow Marines. When he returned to civilian life, Joey created a company that's all about crafting unforgettable memories. This is a great story. Come join us. Joey, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Yes, thank you, Pat. First off, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share our story. Really appreciating the story of others. So thank you so much for having us on. And to share our story, it's pretty much when we it all started back in probably elementary school to middle school. I've always wanted to join the military. I always wanted to play team sports. I always wanted to do something bigger than myself and attain a goal that's bigger than myself, a team aspect. And one of those things is, playing sports, doing music. You're in a band. You're playing with other people. Joining Boy Scouts at a young age to get some adventure in. And then as I grew on, it kind of led to the decision that I wanted to join the military. And essentially, it would be the Marine Corps that I would choose. And after that, attending a private military university. So my life has always been revolved around team things and around these people that just wanted to do things bigger than themselves. So when I graduated from Norwich University up in Vermont, it was also at the end of my time as a Marine, doing 6 years, going to Mongolia, deploying to Iraq, deploying to Norway. And I thought that I served my time very well, made some very good friends and connections that till this day are very important to me. And after I got out, I started getting into the workforce, started working particular jobs in finances, project management. But what really turned the point of what I really wanted to do is I just enjoyed working with other veterans. And the reason why is because we shared the same, we share the same cloth that we're cut from. And one of the organizations that I'm really thankful for was the Mission Continues. And they gave me an opportunity to do service projects, right? I always enjoyed volunteering. You look at, most of my life, it's always been volunteering, whether it's time, resources, or money, giving back to the community, right? And that's why I essentially joined the services to give back not just to my community, but also to my nation. Being a first generation born American, you know, that my heritage is Filipino. Um, so when I started doing the service projects, I started understanding that these are my these are my people. This is the tribe I want to run with, and this is essentially like where my mindset has been. Because even though I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, 4 years at a military university, those 6 years altogether essentially changed my life, and things I carry on, good or bad, or things that I'm working on to improve. Right, and that I got out of the military in 2011. It's almost 12, 13 years already, right? But still influences what I do today. So the people that I met was some of my business partners. One was Alvaro Patrick, who I deployed to all those three areas with. We served in the Marines together. And then Miley Massid, who we went to college together, played rugby together. Uh, he was 2 years above me, but we just became good friends. And that essentially is what stirred up this idea because I used to smoke, I know, smoke cigarettes, dip a couple times, tobacco. But essentially, one of the big moments was when we were deployed to Iraq in 08, 09. Uh, I wish I could, I wish I could thank that person or those people that sent us over cigars to our unit. And I didn't know what I was doing, right? I was probably 21 at the time, 21, 22, in a foreign country, just kind of like, hey, this is what I signed up for. But having those cigars there, and we call it the smoke pit. So essentially, I'll try and build an image. It's like you got like a certain area. It could be a 10 by 10, a 5 by 5, where it's just surrounded by sandbags, maybe a table, a chair, depending on where you are, or picnic table. And then there would be like a ammo can, an empty ammo can where people will put their butts in, so they're not just throwing it on the ground. But essentially, those are places where people could smoke, hang out, and kind of remember where they're from. We're all a human in the end, so there'll be cracking jokes. It kind of like takes off that mask of rank and where we are, and it was a sort of sense of peace as well. Even though if it was a cigarette for a minute, or even a cigar for 20 minutes, it essentially brought peace and it brought camaraderie and brought some memories. Because I always get asked the question, Pat, like, do you remember your first cigar? And I always say, I don't, but I'll always remember the people I smoked it with. And that's why we wanted to build this business, was because it was essentially putting all those aspects together and saying, hey, we want to be there for those great events, those memorable, monumental events in your life. And for about almost 6 years, 6 years this September, we've been doing that. And we've just been so happy with our growth. But a big pivotal moment for us was that I enjoy working with our community. All our team and staff are veterans, first responders, and those connected. And we're so happy when our clients are like, hey, we want to support you guys and gals because of that. And then I get to work with a team with our community. And then I like to do things I like to do. Regardless, I like to smoke and drink. Now I do it for a living.
Explain your business to people because it's a really novel idea.
Yeah, thank you. So 6 years ago, we essentially wanted to start a business because when Miley got back from Afghanistan, he was stationed in Texas in Fort Hood. And then he gave me a call. He goes, "Hey, I'm moving to New Jersey." He's originally from Vermont, but he's getting out of his 4 years. I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm in Jersey too." So he lived in East Brunswick. That lives in Belleville. It was just about a 40-minute drive from each other. But every weekend, because he didn't know anyone in Jersey, every weekend he would come over. He would stay the weekend, and we would go smoke cigars at a lounge. And he's a bigger cigar smoker than I was at the time. And then we would go to the cigar lounge and we would just smoke cigars, make friends, and it was really awesome. And so when I approached him this idea of like creating an experience for clients, he was on board with it. And that's when I brought on our second business partner, Pat Alvaro Patrick, because he has a lot of knowledge and experience of building business. He's always had an entrepreneurship mindset, so I thought he was very valuable. So essentially, what we do, Pat, is we cigar roll. We deliver different types of experience to our clients to make them unforgettable, and it goes into we have a 1973 Airstream, which is our mobile smoke lounge. We have great, amazing coffee that we offer. We expose them to different whiskeys and bourbons, and essentially, which brings it all together, is a cigar that we get from our partners from JC Newman over in Nicaragua. They get shipped to Tampa and shipped to us. But that partnership is fantastic as well. So any weddings, any private parties, golf outings, where cigars are usually like part of that lifestyle, right? It's kind of like a glue. You get a cigar, but it's only a vessel. The cigar is only a vessel. It's only just a bunch of rolled leaves together, right? But the experience is priceless.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I want to go back just for a second to you were talking about your military life, and you said it changed your life. How
Yeah,
did it change it?
changed my life. Especially being a Marine, and some of us who are in the service are listening or watching, when you meet other veterans, they could be from anywhere, any time period. I've met, especially being the Marine Corps, we have a very proud heritage of our history. So when I meet a Marine who's a World War II Marine, a Vietnam Marine, our saying is "Semper Fi," always faithful. And we see each other. I always look, and they sometimes we carry what's called an EGA, which is an acronym for Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. That's what usually what you see on either like shirts or tattoos. And when we see that, it's like, hey, we have a connection, and we're like brothers or sisters. And that's how it is. Just one big, we like to call it one big fraternity and sorority. And how it's changed my life is I've had so many. I didn't grow up with a big family living here in Jersey. I grew up. I think that I like to say is I'm proud to have friends that became family, right? And that changed my life as well because I was just an only child growing up, single parent home. And I think when I have that sense of camaraderie, which is why I always did team sports, I always had people over. Like you know, I'm an extrovert, right, by nature, but that's where I get my energy from, is being with other people. So it's changed my life in that way. Going to my wife, she's a Norwich grad, she's an Army veteran. The connections we've made, the people I've met, uh, it's just been incredible. I mean, it's countless amount of times of events where I meet someone and they're a veteran. It leads to becoming a good friend, a best friend, or just whether in business we have that same attitude, we have that same kind of like mentality.
I think that connection is invaluable. And we were talking about this before we started recording. You don't really find it in many places in the so-called real world.
Correct. I think the highest you could get is probably team sports
Yeah,
or or high level sales, in my opinion, because when you have team sports going from, my son's playing rugby right now in the spring and doing some other team sports, like that's important because I always go back to that quote where it's just like, at least I don't know the full quote, but it's by Theodore Roosevelt. It's called "The Man in the Arena." I don't know if you're familiar with it.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe yeah, I can't pull it up and say it the whole time in
The
verbatim.
the essence of the quote is, that you need to be in the arena playing, win or lose, sweaty, dirty, but
Yeah.
the point is engage.
Correct. And I think for me and my family, we don't want to be sitting in the stands. We want to be in the arena. And I think that's where you find your strengths and your weaknesses, and those weaknesses you can build on. I can never be 100% perfect. Yeah. So it's just, oh, what can I do to improve in one way or the other?
Weaknesses are just part of the human experience. There's a really interesting online a website. No, I'm spacing out on the name. It'll come to me.
No
Oh,
worries.
it's viacharacter.org. Okay. Via
Okay.
And you take an assessment, and the full assessment's like $40. It's worth doing. What they do is they rank all your strengths. There are no weaknesses, they're just relative strengths. And I found it fascinating, actually. When I started looking at my strengths, they explained my whole life in a way that I could not have done. And I think that working with others really helps you see your own strengths and weaknesses, don't you?
I agree 100%. I always say that the military is a fast track to learning about people and people skills. And just to go one step further, I've met leaders that I would give my life for, right? I've met leaders that I probably would even follow them to McDonald's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But I get to pick and choose and able to grab their values and align them with myself. And I've taken similar tests, and we actually did a company one to put people where their strengths are, right? There's some people who could stand behind a desk, don't, without any disturbance, they're effective workers. There's people like me, I need to have noise. I work more effectively when people are in the room or if I'm listening to music. And I'm more of like a visionary type person. And I'm glad because my business partner, which is pretty funny, he's a process person because you can have a vision, but if you don't have the process
yeah,
to put it together, it's not going to work. So how we like to explain it is like, hey, I want to go fast on the highway. He's like, let's go fast, but let's also, make sure we stay between the lines and we at least go, at least the speed limit, a little bit higher, but not too fast. It's a good combination. But I would encourage anyone, especially the website you're saying, take the time to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I'm assuming just like you, I looked at them and I was just like, ah, that explains so much. That explains so much. And when I read it off to my team, they're like, "That's you." I was like, "Sorry."
What makes a good leader?
um, what makes a good leader, I think, in my belief, is to create other good leaders, right? I don't think a good leader is someone who just creates a bunch of followers. He or she creates layers of leadership to help them grow and develop. And when you have a leader that's willing, because you could be a good leader, but then you have a bunch of followers, but when that leader goes away or passes away or is no longer there, who takes the reins? It's that legacy that carries on that says, hey, this person's a good leader because they've influenced someone's life to create better values for themselves. So for me, I would say that would be my definition. A good leader is someone that influence others to be other good leaders, and then good leaders could be another conversation. What defines a good leader, right? But it's in different aspects
What
of life.
does define a good leader? What would you say? I mean, one of the things that comes to my mind certainly is truth. Somebody who walks the walk and is real.
Yeah, when I look at my core values for my company, it's something that's very important to us. One, so we did simple, we're 80s babies, right? So we did Atari. I know I didn't have Atari growing up that much, but A is for alignment, right? So it's just being aligned. I'm just gonna give you our definition of
Yeah,
leadership
yeah.
because it could change, right? Because you being at home, being a business person, being a good employee, good and big employer, it could change from there, right? So A is being aligned with the mission and with your goals, your personal, your professional, and your financial goals, right? Our T is for teamwork. You gotta work as a team to achieve a higher goal. A is for accountability. We want to make sure that we're accountable for our actions, and which goes on to our R, which is results driven. You could be someone that does something all the time, but if there's no results, it's not really, you're just getting zero, right? And nothing goes well with zero. You results driven, and then I, which is very important to us, is inspiration. Who are you inspiring? And when we do our team calls once a week, at the end, I do we call it we've been doing the thank you circle for almost 6 years now. When it was even just me, Patrick, and Miley, we would go around and spend the time to give grace to others and be like, hey, I see that you've been doing this. I appreciate the work you do. And it's great. And that's part of who we are because sometimes when you're running a business, you don't have time to give thanks, and it's always a time to give thanks, and we do that every week. Spend it's only a couple minutes. I choose the next person, I say a nice thing, and then it goes on and on until it gets back to the first person. So yeah, that for me, that's what makes a good leader. Are you aligned with your goals, your personal, professional, financial goals? Are you a team player, a team worker? Right, teamwork for us. Are you accountable to your actions? Listen, I'm not perfect. I don't strive for perfection. I strive for improvement. So I'm accountable to that.
Greatly overrated, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I've taught our team this. I was like, don't practice for perfection, right? That's something that I've grown up on, with the saying. I'm like, practice for improvement, because when you think you're perfect, that means you're not growing anymore. You think you made it on the top of the mountain, and I don't believe in that. I think there's always rooms to grow. And being results driven, and then especially being inspirational. Who are you inspiring? Uh, what are you doing well to inspire others, whether it's one way or the other?
I love the thank you circle. I think that's really profound. People don't take the time often enough to either say thank you or just stop and notice
Correct.
or listen, to really connect with somebody on a more heartfelt level. And I think saying thank you is one way to do that.
Oh, absolutely, which is important. And then in the beginning of our meeting, the first thing we do in the beginning of a meeting, we read out our mission statement, and then we go over our five principles, our core values. And each person, and I've gotten this from another nonprofit organization that I'm a big fan of, part of. It's called Bunker Labs, that helps veterans and family members become entrepreneurs. When I go over the values, there's one person that's leading it and one person who's a scribe, and it changes every week. So someone different is always leading it, so that the CEO is not always leading it. It's
Mhm.
always someone that's leading it. So God forbid I'm not there. There's meetings we've run that I'm not there because I'm at an event or something came up, that it still runs continuously. And then when we go over core values, the biggest thing we do is we go over two things. One is we go around a circle and we ask for three things: what's your personal best, your professional best, and what can you improve on? So some people, like for example, this weekend, I was like, "Hey, my personal is that my son turned 5. Oh, he turned 5 today, but this weekend we went over to a water park. We had a great time. It was definitely fun to be with the family. Our business best, we had a great start of the week for April. We're looking solid for the week. And then what can I improve on? And that's where you could be honest on. I'm like, hey, what I can improve on was I have so much on my plate right now, like a checklist that I need to get through it, or what can I be honest with? I have so much on my list right now that I have to do it, and then that's how we do it. And then the second part is customer testimonials or client testimonials. Hey, what came in this week? Let's shout out some people from our team. And April, who does it, who's a wife of a first responder, a retired sheriff, she comes in and says, "Hey, we've gotten these reviews from our clients or testimonials. They're shouting out these team members." So it's always starting off positive, and then we run through our 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 weekly meeting.
What sort of testimonials do you get?
So testimonials from our clients, it's like, "Hey," I mean, I could pull it up and just read some for you.
No, 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 because I think that you're creating a really unique bonding experience that really is special. I'd love to hear a few of them.
Yeah. So basically, I'll read off a couple. I'm just doing it really fast. We
Sure.
usually read them off from Google, right? We have so altogether our platform from Wedding Wire, The Knot, Facebook, Yelp. We have around 800 5-star uh, Google testimonials. So the newest ones that we had was a week ago, right? So last Thursday. So we always when we do our meeting, we do it from the week before. We're kind of like summing up, and everyone whose roles and responsibilities is like, hey, this is the report that you have to do. If anything needs to be tabled for discussion, we'll do it at the end. It's more of like a reporting what we got going on, so everyone happens. And something I learned from a business entrepreneur, Brandon Dawson: when there's a lack of communication, you'll always find failure. So this is a time and place where once a week we could all get together, say our wins, say our reports, what we're concerned of, and what we could thank people of, right? So Mallory right here, and this is one, and anyone who's watching this could go on Google and see this. So this is live. She did it a week ago. Awesome experience. We hired the mobile cigar lounge for my husband's birthday at our residence, and it was a hit. Dan, who is our team member, he's a firefighter. Had a great table set up, and we had a super cute custom cigar band. The cigars were light and easy to smoke, so people that usually smoke could still enjoy it. It was a great experience, and would definitely recommend them to spice up any event. Another one absolutely outstanding from start to finish. Highly recommend. It was a great time had for all, and they put some pictures in. And the last one I would say that I just picked up, the mobile cigar lounge was quick and eager to help. The cigars we ordered were tasty and smoked well, and the custom band was perfect. There wasn't one left cigar after my father's celebration of life, so order extra. So worth every penny.
Wow.
Um,
What
but
other
we
events do you do? I mean, a celebration of life, weddings. What else?
I mean, yeah, celebration of life. you know, right? The cigar is just like an item. I remember one in particular. I believe it was his father or his brother. Definitely, probably his father. It was for a wedding, and they asked us, "Hey, can we put a picture of her father, right? I guess the bride's father, because he passed away. But everyone knew him as a big cigar smoker. And for us, we're like, hell yeah, absolutely. I'm so for that. Like, I wish I could say like you don't even that's no question if you want to do that. I've had people do it for their brothers that passed away. And I think that's important because that's how they know you as a fun loving guy and who has a cigar smoker. I think that's a pretty dope thing, right? Which will probably be I'll be remembered as, right? My legacy. Um but yeah, we've done golf outings, birthdays. We've done baby gender reveals, baby reveals, first birthdays. That was fun. Bar mitzvahs. Especially for first birthdays. They get something for the dads, right? A lot of gender reveals right now. It used to be like a bridal. No, not a bridal. Like where they have like they're announcing it like a baby shower. It was
Yeah.
usually sometimes with like just mostly women, but now people are like doing it co-ed where they have the women, they have the gifts, they have the food, the drinks, and then for the guys, I've done them where they're like, hey, this is for the men to smoke outside and celebrate, which I think is dope because like the guy may or may not be a huge cigar smoker, but he's smoking with his boys to be like, hey, this is going to be, you know I'll remember this day, right? So we've done everything, mostly everything under the sun.
You're creating memories for people that stick.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's our number one priority. Like we're here to sell you a memorable experience. Listen, can you go out and go to a cigar lounge or go online, buy cigars? Absolutely. Go right ahead, but we want to provide you an experience, and our team and staff and our team members they're fantastic people.
Where can people find you?
So people can find us on all sorts of social media: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at the Mobile Cigar Lounge. Visit our website at www.themobilecigarlounge.com. I'm located in Jersey, so if anyone's in Jersey wants to grab a smoke, I'm a co-owner over at a private cigar lounge over in North Jersey. So yeah, that's where people can find us.
Have you ever given any thought to franchising it?
I have. There's a lot of things, right? It's one of
Yeah.
those things like, do you guys think of franchising? Yeah, but then there's a cost associated to that, lawyer fees, making sure that you have your processes in place because it has to be duplicatable. And now I'm trying to sell a business to an investor or a partner, and they're going to look at numbers, and you have to be really intricate, which Patrick and well, mostly Patrick and I have been doing, and Caitlin, who works with us, is just like everything that we do. There's a process because when we learned the military, you gotta know two steps up and or two ranks up. And what that means is if your team leader or your squad leader goes down, or someone in your team goes down, you should know the job from two people above you, right? God forbid you're in a firefight and your team leader goes down and your squad leader goes down. You better know his roles and responsibilities because you're going to take it over as a senior guy or gal. So for us, it's like if someone goes on vacation or someone uh, leaves or passes away, we have a process for each thing, and I think that's important when building a business.
I think it's really important, particularly in a fairly entrepreneurial business, um, because nobody lives forever.
Correct.
And, you really have to have some sort of orderly transition.
Yeah, and that orderly transition. The great thing is there's been, can I say, millions of businesses that have been started since the dawn of time that I don't, especially with the internet. The internet is fantastic. You grab information in seconds. I could just look things up and kind of like research it and figure out what best suits us. Not every business has the same kind of structure, right? But there's always like these main structures of knowing your finances, your P&L, your hiring, your marketing. So there's a lot of similar aspects, but it can be done differently and with different strategies, which is fun for me. I like
I
researching.
think the whole thing is fun, and I think that the intent behind it is really incredible. I think creating these really memorable moments for people. God, I sound like a credit card commercial, but it's priceless.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it's priceless, and I'm so happy. We've probably did over, probably definitely over 3,000, maybe even 4,000 events since our inception in
Wow.
2018 while going through COVID, right? We've done so many, and we have a great team now that does a lot of the footload that I used to. And something that I love about Patrick, myself, and Miley is we built this from the ground up. Like we didn't have, you know, a $500,000 and just bought a process and then try to learn it. It was like, no, we learned it through being the men in the arena. We've took some licks, right? We've learned from them. I think that's the important part is learning from your mistakes or your failures and then just moving on. Because that's how we're trained in the military. It's like, all right, you can't do that. Okay, what can I do? Or how can I get around it?
What inspirational advice would you have for somebody looking to start their own business?
Um, Something that that's a great question. Something I always talk to with military vets, and also this could apply to anyone else, is this might be a little bit harsh, right? It's no one owes you anything, right? Even though I'm a veteran and I'm coming from a first generation Asian American background, no one owes me anything. I have to step through the door. Are there resources that are out there to help me? Absolutely, but initially you have to take the first step. So if you're ever looking to do a business, just don't think you're just going to do it yourself. You have to walk through the door, you have to build those networks, you got to build those connections, and I think that's a huge thing. We wouldn't be where we are today if I didn't hear the advice from others. It would probably take us double the time. Which I think my second thing would be is put your ego in your back pocket. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Always continue learning, especially today, Pat. When, like I said, you could just type in a few words on Google, or the first thing when I did was when I started my business, I started calling other veteran-owned businesses. I called a guy, Dan, who has Red, White, and Q over here in Jersey. He opened up a barbecue smokehouse, and even though I'm doing cigars, I called him and I asked him, "Can I ask you a few questions on how to become, a business owner and stuff like that?" I've asked my friends who's a CPA. So one is no one owes you anything. You just gotta get it done, right? The life I treat it as like there's no lifeboat coming after me, right? There's people that will say they'll help you, right? But you have to build those connections. You have to do those things. And then number two is, don't put your ego in your back pocket. Be able to accept constructive criticism.
I think those are both really great points, particularly putting your ego in your back pocket. Because I don't know about you, but I find if my ego leads, I get slammed each
Oh,
and every time.
yeah, 100%. And that's human nature. Yeah. But sometimes you gotta like check yourself and just be
Yeah.
like, oof. There's times where I've talked to my partner Patrick. I'm like, dude, am I doing the right thing? And I just, well, that's part of my personality. When I make decisions, I ask also the opinions of others to make sure I'm making the right one because I don't want to run through rash decisions because I've seen what rash decisions have done. I've seen more damage than good with rash decisions. Now, if you have a logical one with metrics or you know logical answers for that, then yeah, it's no longer a rash decision. It's more of a decisive decision.
Although I would argue that your business is an emotional decision in many ways.
Oh, 100%. There's we've seen that because it's most of the people that book us, believe it or not, Pat, are not cigar smokers. They maybe smoke a cigar here or there. Most of the people that book us are women who are buying it for their spouses. You know, it's an emotional thing because it's showing their gratitude. Because if you look at the wedding process, Pat, and
Mhm.
doesn't apply. This is more for like a generic spread, right? Most of the time, it's the women that are planning it, their weddings, and they're trying to get their spouse or their significant other to get involved. And one of them is, and I've heard it plenty of times where I'm on a call where they're both on and the bride will go to their partner and go, "All right, this is for you. you've planned this. This is what you want because it's kind of like a thank you, and then because they know that they love cigars, or even their father or father-in-laws love cigars. They're like, oh my god, they don't buy it for themselves; they buy it for the another person. Most of my events are not for that particular host. Most of them are for other people, which then goes to your point, Pat. It's an emotional thing because there's a connection between that.